Welcome to the PSD Podcast. These are meaningful discussions about all types of different ministry experiences. Our desire are to share insights and wisdom based on the way God has been at work in our lives. I'm Jim Hinkle, and I'm your host, but I am not your only host today. I am delighted to be joined by my co-host, Xavrius Swartz, the Executive Director of School Administration for the PSD. Hey, Xav.
I'm so excited to be here. I love podcasts, and now I'm getting to be on one. This seems surreal.
Xav and I have been friends since college. We have known each other many years, and as we talk about church work today, it's not only an opportunity for us to remember the way God worked in our lives, but to talk with two other people in whose lives God has also worked. They remind us of our younger, cooler selves. We are joined today by Micah Valadez, who's a teacher at Christ Lutheran in La Mesa, Ryan Fink, who has not only been an educator at Crean Lutheran, but is now a vicar as he prepares for pastoral ministry. Welcome to both of you.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Here. Yeah.
I like that you said they remind you of a younger version of ourselves because they are very cool. So that means at one time I was this cool.
Well, at least we're going to put that out there on the podcast.
We said it on a podcast. It must be true.
It has to be true. That's kind of you to say.
There has been an incredible emphasis throughout our synod and even in our district about recruiting church workers, about praying to the Lord of the harvest for more and more who would serve. And we want to have a discussion about that today, even the way God has worked in our lives. And I want to invite each of you to share a little bit more about your path to ministry, your influences and motivations.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Micah should go first. Ladies first. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I will jump in. So, it obviously is not my plan. It was very much God's plan to lead me to church work, and it was not my original intention. I was a college student at SDSU, and just looking for a job, just looking for something that will help me further in what I want to do. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. And 19 years old, I was a preschool aide at Christ La Mesa, and it's so funny because I think about that first year and I was like biking to work. Like, I was like, this is a job that I'm having to earn money and I'm biking there. I don't even have a car. And so there was just so many years of, a few years of being in the preschool where I was like, this is just my side job. Like, I'm a college student. I'm working like 3 jobs and this is one of them. And there was multiple times that the job transformed into, this is me serving. And always growing up a believer, and I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church, and so it was just very much like separated, where like church was separate and then work was separate, and then there was just moments that I just saw God working through me at Christ La Mesa. So that's where the start of my church work was, and slowly God transformed me into, okay, this is your place, this is your home, this is your church home. I'm calling you to serve, this is part of your ministry. And so I started to it was through many mentors that like poked me and said, you'd be great at this and you'd be great at this, and here, try this. And so I've had my hand in multiple areas at Christ La Mesa, so multiple areas of ministry, and I'm just so happy and so blessed to be serving at Christ La Mesa.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Micah. So my path into ministry, I think it most certainly began when I was a kid. So I'm the son of 2 church workers. My mom is a Lutheran school principal at Bethany Lutheran in Long Beach. And my dad is a director of Christian education there. And that's the congregation that I grew up in, grew up going to school there as well. And so if somebody were to ask me my 2 biggest influences in going into church work, it would definitely have to be them, my parents. And yet it's interesting to think about. I can't really recall a time where they said that to me, where they said to me, Ryan, we think you should do this, or we've been, seeing this in you that you should go into the ministry. For me, my parents are a big influence in terms of how they modeled it for me. And to be honest, how they sort of like dragged me into it in many ways, because, you know, when you're a kid and both your parents are working at the church and at the school, as a kid, you end up spending a lot of time there. And so besides my own house, I can't think of another place I've spent more time than Bethany Lutheran Church and school. I went on the weekends with my dad to set up the rooms for Bible study and confirmation. During the summer, my brother and I were always there. My mom put us to work fixing desks in the classrooms, free cheap labor, you know? So
my kids can relate.
Yes, exactly. And so for me, even though at the time when I was a kid, like there were probably many times where I didn't want to do those things, but now looking back, that was them modeling for me, first of all, just what it means to be a servant, but also the joy of serving full-time in ministry and making a home out of a congregation and out of a school. So that was a big modeling influence for me. I didn't really receive any kind of like external motivation to go into church work really until right before my senior year of high school. I went on my first mission trip with the youth group and some other members of our church, and we went and taught Vacation Bible School in Alaska, actually. And that was the first time where it really occurred to me, maybe I could do this full time. And I talked to my mom about it after the trip, and she, you know, affirmed that in me. And that's what led me to come here to Concordia and become an educator. And now I'm at Korean Lutheran High School. So really just want to, I guess, out loud on this podcast, definitely want to honor my parents in that way. That's a really special thing that I'm grateful to God for when I reflect on it. So
it seems that everyone who finds themselves in church work, whether as a teacher, DCE, pastor, musician, whatever it may be, has people, maybe even just that person, who encourage them, who identified God at work in them. Has that been your experience, Zave, as you?
Yeah, I think that I had the opportunity. We talk a lot about handing kids the keys to the kingdom, right? Like, so literal keys sometimes, like, yeah, you lock up after, or Jonah, go get this, Leah, go get this, you know, whatever. We literally hand them keys. But I also think like I figuratively got handed keys early on. So they saw in me the ability to teach, to lead. And so as a junior high student, I was teaching Sunday school. As a high schooler, I was leading VBS. Because they saw that in me and empowered me to use it, then I saw myself as a leader. And then church work became a way for me to use my leadership abilities to the glory of God. And a shout out to Jim Hinkle. I say like he was super influential in my I guess path towards seeing myself as a leader, not just as a teacher, and that he asked me to be a part of a big leadership team. We were doing a junior high youth gathering here on Concordia's campus, and he tapped me on the shoulder as a sophomore and was like I want you on this team. And I would say it's one of the first times I really saw myself as a leader in addition to being like a teacher.
You have all shared, and I would certainly share, that we've had these people in our lives who influenced us and spoke to us. And I think one of the things that we have learned as we've studied church work and those who may or may not be interested in it is the value of that kind of encouragement and direct conversation. And yet people may hesitate. You know, they don't necessarily say something, or they don't want to mention it to someone in their lives. Any sense of reasons for that? That people may hesitate to talk with somebody or encourage somebody about serving in church work?
So for me, this is not a fully formed thought, but I have noticed just in general, you know, people being less intentional in conversation as smartphones and internet and screen time and all of those things. So I think there's a part of that where, you know, people have not been raised to be as intentional as they used to be. As far as it goes with encouraging people into church work, I guess for me, like I can think of at Korean Lutheran, working with high school students, I've had a couple of students where I have really wanted them to go into church work, and I've been intentional, and it just hasn't happened. And so there's an element of discouragement with that. Like, oh, like, was it the way I said it, or did I not do it the right way? Was I not intentional enough? So I wonder if there's, I don't know, something there with people lacking confidence or just lacking the ability to be intentional that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where my head went.
I wonder if people hesitate to because they think that's the role of a church worker. Like if you're a teacher or a principal or a DCE or pastor, fill in the blank, and you tap kids on the shoulder, then they're more likely to do it. But the reality is that all sorts of people, all people who love Jesus and love the church, should be tapping people on the shoulder, and not always kids, because Ryan's experience was he grew up in the church with people modeling that and tapping him on the shoulder. But Micah was a full-fledged adult when somebody tapped her on the shoulder and was like, I know you don't think you want to be a teacher, but you should be. And not only that, you should be a Lutheran teacher. And there's a way to do that. And that's one of the things I love about our synod, is that there's a way to like grow up knowing you want to do that, go to a Concordia, be call eligible right out of college. But there's also a way to like make that decision midstream. Like, I want a second career as a Lutheran educator, as a pastor. And both those paths bring us exactly to where we need to be and to where God can use us in a big, bold way.
Yeah.
The very nature and essence of our faith is that it is counterculture. It does not matter the culture in which we find ourselves. Our faith is countercultural. That is the very nature of Christ, who gives us this extraordinary grace, who sacrifices himself for us on the cross. And that seems to be the emphasis that Ryan mentioned, that to express our faith or even to invite people into ministry means being countercultural. If the nature of the culture is we don't talk as much as what once did, we don't have the conversations like we used to be countercultural is to engage somebody, to talk to them, to express, and this is a phrase that we use around the district office every so often, I see in you. I see God working in you and doing something in you.
Absolutely. And I think it can be done, something Zave said sparked another memory for me, because it can be done so many different ways, counterculture, like you're saying. It can be a one-on-one thing, but it can also be like taking a step to praise somebody in front of a group of people, because I remember now on that same mission trip that helped form, like for myself, like the thought of being a church worker. I can remember one of the pastors at Bethany led that trip, Seth Mormon, who I love, and I want to shout him out too. He praised me like with the group of people. He said, Ryan, I want you to pray for us because you know what, Ryan, you're really good at praying. And nobody had ever told me that before out loud. And just kind of similar to what Zave said about what Jim told her when she was a sophomore here, just like the amount of confidence that gave me and a little insight into a vision of what I could do in the future.
Yeah. You saw yourself as a prayer.
Yes,
then,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Because somebody said it externally.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think always like something we need to remember is how much power our words have. And so don't discount if you see in somebody that like, dang, I think they've got the gifts to be a church worker. Like, don't discount how powerful your words are. I remember as a principal, a girl had a strawberry shortcake t-shirt on. And I was like, I love strawberry shortcake. Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. And
she
then,
wore it all the time, huh?
Well, for Christmas, her mom brings in this giant box to my office. And she's like, I am so embarrassed about this, but Audrey swears that you're going to want this. And it was this giant plush strawberry shortcake doll. And I keep it always in my office wherever I'm serving to remind me that my words matter. Because we didn't have this long powerful conversation about strawberry shortcake. I just she heard from me affirmation of that's cool. I love that too. Now we have something in common, And so when we tell kids or anyone, even adults too, our words matter. And we have, especially in the roles that we're in with being in church work, we have a lot of influence on people, but so do every person that sit in our pews and love our churches and schools. When they see that in people, gosh, we should be saying it. We say other silly things like, I love your strawberry shortcake shirt. Let's say things like, I see in you, you're a great prayer. You have an amazing voice. You should use that to praise Jesus. I don't know.
There is a phrase that has become familiar in the culture in recent decades, and it tends to be used in a negative context. And the phrase is, see something, say something. And it's a negative kind. If you see some difficulty or trouble or inappropriateness, you got to say something. That's a phrase that can be redeemed in a positive context for ministry. See something, say something. See something in somebody, see God at work, say it to them.
Right. I think a lot of people, myself included, when I was trying to figure out what I would be doing in life, is that I didn't feel equipped enough. I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I had the tools, or I don't know, I wasn't holy enough. I wasn't Lutheran enough. I wasn't, and then all the things that you might think, the doubt. But when you say and use those words that I see this in you, or, hey, can you help me out with this church event that we're doing, or would you serve alongside me here? As soon as you pull someone in, you feel more equipped. You feel like, yes, this person sees me and is saying that you are ready, you are valuable.
Because what we see in you is not just you. We see God. We see God at work. We see the faith that he has given you. We see the giftedness that he has put on you. And that makes such a huge difference. Micah, you serve with middle school students.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, you teach high school students.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the assumptions they may make about church work, or the hesitancies they may have if somebody invites them to consider church work.
So to the point of culture and being countercultural, in the context I serve, which is a high school here in Irvine, a high achieving, wealthier kind of place, I would say my students at Crean Lutheran, many of them are operating under the assumption that church work isn't high achieving enough, is a way I would put it. A lot of them are coming from families that are these real professional, like doctors or lawyers or business people or things like that. And so they have this, we would say wrong-headed assumption, but it's what they're operating with as teenagers, that, I can go for something better or bigger than church work. And it's somewhere lower on the totem pole, if that makes sense. And so that informs the decisions they're making about where they want to go to college. A lot of students, if I bring up Concordia, they're just it's kind of funny. They're like, well, all my teachers went there. I kind of want to go to this big school here or this big school there, and I want to study this or that where I can make more money, which is kind of another assumption that they're operating with, is that they won't make enough, and I'm using air quotes, enough money, doing church work. They want to do something that gives them more than that, which again, we all know is a wrong-headed, that's the way the world talks. And so that's where Pastor Jim's point of being countercultural is important. But that's how my students, I would say in general, are thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say church work is a very humbling and not glamorous career profession, and the middle schoolers and high schoolers, their influences right now are much louder than the culture of church. So there's other things that are distracting them. There's other things that are battling the voice of God. And so they're combating tech and just what they think is glamorous, what they think is successful, like you're saying, Ryan, and what they think is success. So that's what's really, really hard and really difficult. But as we continue to pour into the students of who Jesus is and that they're the light that's shining Jesus's light, and just being that louder voice than tech and society and what's cool. I think that's what's really important.
And there might be even something, well, this is in a similar vein to what Pastor Jim said about like taking see something, say something, and using it in a different way. I think there's something we can all do with our adolescents today, middle school and high school, of helping them see, like what's a real influencer? Well, being a church worker, that's an influencer because that is the Holy Spirit working through you to influence people, into heaven ultimately. What is achievement really? Well, imagine what God can achieve through you working in the church, what he can do with your words, sharing the gospel with people, what he can do with your actions and loving a kid or loving a family that maybe doesn't get a lot of love in lots of other places in their life. And so there's it's the same theme that we've been talking about of being countercultural and showing them how the church and Christ and scripture can, fight back against what the world and what the culture says about them and what it says about church work and the opportunities that it presents, I would say.
Yeah. And I know we're talking about like future church workers on this podcast, but I just want to like give a shout out to all current church workers to say like how we live our lives as church workers matters. And so if it looks like a joyful, fulfilling way to live, then kids will want to do it more. And I know, like, I would agree with Ryan that I think a lot of kids would say, like, well, you can't make very much money being a church worker. And that's true. You're never going to be rich being a church worker financially. All right. But I would argue that all the church workers I serve alongside, they are so rich in relationship, in purpose, in joy for what they do, and knowing that what they get up and do every single day really matters. And so I think there's so much wealth to be communicated to kids, but we, like these people around this table, and then collectively church workers out there, we have to do it with an attitude that makes kids want to go into church work. And our peers who might be great public school teachers, but would make even better Lutheran school teachers, that they see in us like, well, that seems a lot more meaningful.
Yeah.
And that's something you heard Zave and I discuss in episode 3, along with Unju and Courtney. We talked about the relationship between worker wellness and worker recruitment. For all those who say we have a recruitment need in the church, our response is often we have a wellness need in the church. The more workers are joyful and well and healthy, the more that affects recruitment.
Yeah.
And all of us around this table, whether we have been in ministry for 10 years or 30 years, can testify to the great joy of ministry. But that's not to say that it's been without difficulty and struggle and hardship and all kinds of different.
For sure. And to the point of Zave talking about rich in relationships, that's another big aspect that was modeled for me. And I know everybody around this table has experienced it too, but the opportunity to be a part of a community of church workers, both on your staff, wherever you serve, whatever church or school that you serve at, but also this larger network in our own district and across the synod and all of the alumni of various Concordias or colloquy programs or whatever. That was something that I also saw when I was a kid growing up with church worker parents, was look at this team of like friends that became family, like the people that were in my home who were colleagues and coworkers with my parents all the time. And the relationships and the bonds that are formed, that's something that we can show to future church workers. Like, this is an amazing thing to be a part of. Like, what a gift to be a part of something that is so good in that sense and so rich, like Zave was saying.
I would say that's one of the things that attracted me to church work is being part of our synod and also especially our district, like just such amazing community that has wrapped their love around me and raising me up into becoming a Lutheran teacher. Like I never felt alone in the process and never felt that it was difficult. Even though it was difficult, it's challenging becoming a teacher, getting your teaching credential and, just finishing up my colloquy and all those things were difficult. But I never felt alone. And that's something that's just so reassuring. And I've been to a couple gatherings now and seeing, our church nationwide just have such a love for Jesus and each other. It's just so encouraging. And I don't see anybody else my age and my peers that are in different professions feeling the same way about the quote company that they're in. And
yeah, I think that so many of the jobs that people do feel isolating, and so one of my favorite quotes is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I feel like that's what being in church work is like you are in the trenches with people and it is kind of a trudging every day. It's not very fast to get kids to move an inch, either in the academic sense, but also in the spiritual piece. But man, if you stay at it and you go with people, it completely changes lives. You go far.
Absolutely.
We are part of a church body, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, that has a church work initiative called Set Apart to Serve. And with that initiative has come no small measure of study about the impact on those considering church work. And as much as we may talk about people who are younger, boy, we want to emphasize the opportunities for those who are older, whether you come to church work at, 22 years old or 62 years old. We want to have those conversations with you, and we're delighted. But among the things that these studies of Set Apart to Serve have revealed are you got to say something. And we've talked about that. You got to stay connected to that person. Don't just say something once, say it again. Continue to have a relationship with that person. You got to show them ways to serve. And Zave talked about that in her own experience. Somebody gave her the keys. It might be teaching a Sunday school class or reading the Bible in worship or any number, but give them an opportunity to actually engage in it and serve. And then you got to share a pathway for them. Help them to see this is how it happens, and here are the resources that are going to help make that happen. It might be finances. It might be the educational path and all that kind of stuff. As you think about those four emphases or any others, which strike you as especially significant?
Mm-hmm. I want to speak to the financial piece of it because kind of the elephant in the room is that it's expensive to become a church worker. And so I think to both congregations and schools that making colloquy money a priority, it should be a priority in our budgets. If we want more called teachers, if we want more pastors, then we got to be tapping people on the shoulder and having resources to help them go after that. So I think that's really important. And then just to say to just every general congregation member out there that loves the church and wants to see more people in church work, if you see that in someone, what would it take to come alongside of them and help sponsor them in some way? And so, because it might be a singular investment in someone, but then they're going to bless so many different people. And when I was growing up, the congregation I grew up in, super small in little rural Eden, Idaho, but they paid a fourth of my tuition to come to Concordia Irvine. And they didn't have a school. I was never going back there to serve, right? But I've gotten to have a really awesome, cool, larger impact. And not even in that district. I served as a teacher there for 4 years, but anyway, I just think about that and how it completely, really, really changed the trajectory of my life, but then in turn, all the things I got to do. So what congregations and schools and congregation members out there, what could we possibly do?
Absolutely. I think I want to speak to the relational piece. That was the most of the things that Pastor Jim just listed, the most resonant and convicting, truthfully, of not just like dropping the invitation to church work and then saying, okay, I did my job, like kind of dusting off your hands and walking away, but continuing to talk to them about it, both directly, but also indirectly modeling it, and giving them opportunities, like you said, and just really staying like in relationship with these people, whether they be older and doing a second career thing or younger students, just like continuing to walk with them and give them those opportunities to serve and showing them, this is a wonderful thing to be a part of and something that God could be calling you into. I think just staying with it is a really important thing.
I think of my own personal story when you're talking about all those points in Set to Serve initiative, Set Apart to Serve. And I think of it like a seed, right? You're talking about like saying something, you're planting that seed and then also just watering it, helping it grow, tending to it. A big reason why after 10 years, this is something that I know that God is calling me to do is because of the people that have continued to pour into me. And so from the beginning, it being the preschool staff, the preschool directors, we have Maggie Payne and Melissa Payne just really showing me that I can do it, being a young person and saying like, here's the tools that you need to become a preschool teacher, administrator. And then also saying, with Zave just being like, hey, you would be an amazing teacher. I will help sponsor you and I will help get you to where you need to be. Oh my gosh, I'm sitting right next to her, so I might get emotional. But just after years and years of that, looking back now, I'm like, whoa, this is what it is. It's you're tapping someone saying, I see you, but then also guiding them and going alongside them in life and
finding resources to make it happen.
Because I never felt that it was like a burden to go to school. It was a blessing, and I never felt that finances would be an issue. And then looking back now, I'm like so happy that and grateful that I was able to do that. And then also just with Sherry Solander to just be the DCE that I wasn't a youth, but for her to be the DCE that helped guide me to say, this is what you can do for our youth now. And here's how you do it, and giving the tools and saying like modeling how to do it. Yeah. So it's just, I feel like everything you're all saying is a great representation of what I've been going through for the past 10 years at church.
Among the beautiful expressions of our Lutheran theology is the theology of vocation, the belief, the absolute conviction that God reveals himself through a variety of different roles, maybe husband and wife, mom and dad, maybe an engineer, a nurse, or even a pastor and a teacher. And we honor all of those roles. And we really want to encourage people in their various vocations to recognize the ways that God is at work, the witness that they have in the relationships God has given to them. But as we get ready to wrap up, definitely want to take a moment to speak to those listeners who may be considering church work. Again, it might be a 15-year-old who's listening to a podcast with a bunch of church workers and wondering if this is for him or her. It might be a 50-year-old who finds themselves at the end of a great 20 or 30-year career and is considering what's next and something different. What's the message that we may have for those who are considering it?
The first thing that comes to mind is not really a piece that we've referenced here, but it's this, the need is great. The need for workers here in our church body is really large. And I think that's really important to say, because I think people have this inherent need to be needed. And so for the person that might be listening to this, that is thinking about it, as a person who's doing this every single day, like, I need your help, and all of these folks that are sitting at the table with me and all of our friends in our various places where we work, we need your help. There is so much to do and so much opportunity. So join us, I guess is what I would say.
yeah, the feeling of, I would say the reward is rich, and it is just so rewarding to be a part of this ministry. And like Ryan said, yeah, we need you, and it would be just amazing to serve alongside a huge amount of people. And there's just such a strong love for Jesus, especially coming out of like a gathering year that we just had. Like, there's just so many young people on fire for our Lord that I'm like, I want you all to just be in our classrooms and in our churches and in our youth rooms, and just what amazing young people there are, like cool people that could just spread the love of Jesus in today's world and be the light. And there's just so many opportunities for you to do that. Like, and if you're like, I'm not really like my teacher, well, good. Like we don't need multiple of each other. We don't need multiple of people here on this table. We want you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it's worth investing your life this way. This is a really, really great way to invest your life. And if God is leaning on you, I always say, like, the times I've felt like really called by the Holy Spirit, it has felt like he's sitting on me like an elephant. And so if that's how it feels for you, like the Lord is just sitting on your heart to consider this either for college or a mid-career move, just take a step towards that. Take a step towards it. And if you discover it's not for you, there's no, but okay. But don't wonder if you should have done it. Say yes. Say yes.
Pray. As much as we've discussed talking with each other or talking with others, talk with God. Pray. The Bible teaches us that if anyone lacks wisdom, they need only ask, and God will give it. And you have every assurance that God is going to answer your prayer, because this is the God who sent his son to live, die, and rise again for us. And there is nothing that he won't give us for our good. And so pray and ask God, and he is going to reveal that in a variety of different ways, even through his own people as they speak into your life. Micah, Ryan, we love you. Zave and I thank God for the ways that you serve and that you serve in the Pacific Southwest District. Our whole team is honored to partner with you and partner with all those other church workers who are listening to us.
When I talk to them and think about the future, it just excites me for the district, for our church body, for our synod.
If you'd like to learn more about the district, please visit psd-lcms.org or reach out to us, and we would be happy to talk with you about a great many things, including church work.